Right now, more bicycles roll out under one company's name than any other on Earth. 6.6 million bikes a year, nearly $2 billion in sales, bikes in over 50 countries. The biggest bicycle maker there has ever been. And almost nobody in America can name it. It is a Taiwanese company called Giant, and it did not reach the top by beating the old American king in a fair fight. It got there because the king personally taught it everything, handed over the blueprints, paid it to learn the trade. The most beloved bicycle brand in American history spent 15 years training the exact company that would put it out of business. So how do you accidentally build your own executioner? To grasp how far Schwinn fell, see how tall it once stood. In 1895, a German machinist named Ignaz Schwinn and a meatpacking financier named Adolf Arnold set up shop in Chicago. Within decades, Schwinn was not just a bike brand. It practically was the word for bicycle. The way people say Kleenex instead of tissue, American kids said Schwinn instead of bike. Through the 1950s, roughly 1 in 4 bicycles sold in the whole country was a Schwinn, a quarter of the market, from one family shop. Find a Schwinn under the tree on your birthday, and you had basically won childhood. And Schwinn kept reading the room perfectly. In 1963, a designer named Al Fritz saw California kids bolting motorcycle-style banana seats and tall ape hanger bars onto their bikes. So Schwinn built one on purpose and called it the Stingray. Instant sensation. It basically invented the wheelie bike, and the dirt track versions grew into the whole sport of BMX. By the end of the 1960s, Schwinn was rolling out over 1 million bikes a year, and when the 1970s bike boom hit, its 10 speeds sold by the trainload. For a while, Schwinn could do no wrong, which, in these stories, is always the sound of a trapdoor being oiled. Now, one state over, something was brewing that would rewrite the industry, and Schwinn had a front row seat, because it was literally happening on top of Schwinn's old bikes. In the hills of Marin County, California, a scruffy crew of riders, Charlie Kelly, Gary Fisher, Joe Breeze, Tom Ritchie, wanted to bomb down a brutal fire road they nicknamed Repack. What did they build their machines from? Old 1930s and 40s Schwinn Excelsior cruisers, dug out of junk piles and scrap heaps. They bolted on fat balloon tires, real brakes and gears, and went screaming down the mountain. In 1976, they made it a race. In 1977, Joe Breeze welded the first bike built from scratch to do it. The mountain bike was born, out of Schwinn's own discarded skeletons. So here is Schwinn's golden opportunity, gift-wrapped in their own frames. A brand new category, invented by their own customers, on their own bikes, in their own backyard. Schwinn's engineers even built a rugged prototype, the Clunker 5. And then management shrugged the whole thing off as a passing fad. A toy. Something no grown adult would ever pay real money for. Read that back. The company whose scrap metal created the mountain bike could not picture anyone buying one. Meanwhile, in 1981, a small outfit called Specialized shipped the Stump Jumper, the first mass-produced mountain bike you could buy off the floor. It sold out. The fad Schwinn laughed off became the future of cycling, and Trek, Specialized, and Cannondale sprinted off with it. But missing the mountain bike was only the warm-up. In September 1980, 1,400 workers at Schwinn's aging Chicago plant walked out. The strike ran 13 weeks, and when it ended, only about 65% got their jobs back. Now leadership stood at a fork. Reinvest in modern American factories and better bikes, or chase cheap labor overseas and hope. They picked door 2, with enthusiasm. They opened a new plant in Greenville, Mississippi, so badly placed, far from ports and highways, that it lost money every single year it existed. And to fill the gap, Schwinn leaned harder and harder on a tiny contractor it had hired back in 1977 across the ocean. That contractor was Giant. And in 1977, Giant was almost nothing. Its founder, a Taiwanese entrepreneur named King Lu, had stumbled into bicycles almost by accident, after a typhoon wiped out his eel farm. He started with a small shop and a handful of workers. Then, the biggest name in American cycling came knocking. And Schwinn did not just place an order. It handed Giant its frame designs, its tooling, its manufacturing know-how. Decades of hard-won engineering poured into a 5-year-old company on the far side of the ocean. Schwinn thought it was buying cheap labor. It was really writing Giant a complete instruction manual for building a bicycle empire. And Giant was a very fast learner. Within about 7 years, it was building roughly 2/3 of every bicycle that wore the Schwinn name. 2/3. And that Schwinn work made up around 75% of Giant's entire revenue. Sit with that. Schwinn was now totally dependent on Giant to build its bikes, and Giant had grown strong almost entirely on Schwinn's business. So what does a clever contractor do with all that knowledge? In 1981, while still cheerfully building Schwinn's bikes, Giant quietly launched its own brand. By 1986, it was selling across Europe. By 1987, its US dealer network jumped from about 500 shops to over 1,500 in 1 year. The student had stopped taking notes. It had started teaching the class. Now, you would think getting outmaneuvered by your own subcontractor would teach a company a lesson. You would be wrong. In 1987, Schwinn went hunting for someone even cheaper and cut a deal with a factory in Shenzhen, the China Bicycle Company. And what did Schwinn hand over this time? The dies, the plans, the know-how. Again. They had just watched one contractor use their designs to grow into a rival, so they gave a second contractor the exact same designs. It is like being pickpocketed and responding by printing a map to your wallet and handing out copies. They did not just miss the trend, they sold the rebels the scrap to start it, then taught their contractors how to win. By now, the walls were closing in from every side. Schwinn had surrendered the mountain bike to Trek and Specialized. Its factories were bleeding, and its own suppliers were eating its lunch. The numbers tell the story. In 1987, Schwinn still sold around 1 million bikes a year. By 1991, that was cut clean in half to 500,000. By 1993, it had shriveled to roughly 275,000. Its share of the American market caved from that mighty 1 in 4 down to about 5%. In the 3 years before the end, Schwinn lost around $50 million, $25 million in 1992 alone. The old king was flat out of road. On October 7, 1992, after nearly a century, Schwinn filed for bankruptcy. The company that had been the word for bicycle listed $82 million in debt. It was carved up and sold to an investment group for a fraction of its former worth. And the Schwinn family, after 4 generations, walked away with $2.5 million and the contents of the company museum. 98 years of family ownership switched off. And one of the biggest creditors in that bankruptcy? Giant. The little contractor was now big enough to help pick over the bones of the giant that made it. Schwinn had trained its own replacement, paid it to learn, and handed it the knife. So where did everyone land? Giant, that 5-year-old contractor Schwinn taught to make bikes, is today the largest bicycle manufacturer on the planet. Bikes in over 50 countries, revenue near $2 billion a year, still wearing the crown. And Schwinn? The name survives, but only as a label. It changed hands over and over, and today it is a nameplate stamped on bikes built overseas and stacked in the aisles of Walmart and Target. The proud Chicago institution is now basically a sticker. Here is the part that gets me. Schwinn was not ambushed by a genius it never saw coming. It invented the mountain bike out of its own scrap and ignored it. It trained its rival by hand and acted shocked when the rival won. So let me ask you, if the future of your whole industry rolled into your backyard, built from your own leftovers, would you recognize it or call it a toy? Tell us in the comments, and which company should we open up next? Subscribe, and we will keep opening the tapes the giants would rather keep shut. This was the Industry Tapes.